met Lara virtually in the Teal Around the World conference. One of the most inspiring conversations I sat in and listened to. One thing, maybe I have a weakness towards people who are authentic. I can assure you that Lara is authentic. It comes from her heart. She spoke in that conference about the transformation she brought about in Roche in India, and she was in India as a managing director. Such a fascinating conversation. Brings in all the human principles to embrace what self-management is all about, maximizing human potential. So she's someone who truly believes in it, passionately adopts it, has practiced it, and now it's become her mission as well. Correct, Lara? If I've missed anything, yes, please add on. Floor is over to you, Lara.
Thank you, Resh. Thank you a lot. So it's a pleasure to be here, really, because I think that each time that we share things that we experienced or that we believe with different people, the questions that come make us learn a lot, because it's kind of another perspective or of another person asking something that you haven't realized, and each time you learn more. What I wanted to start with is with my journey, with who am I? The new way of working in the future, yes, it is self-management. But for being self-management is very important. There is a flow of the people that are working together. And these people is kind of led or inspired in the right direction. It might be from the senior management or somebody from the organization that starts to inspire them and they start to create together. But absolutely everything we start with somebody that is sparkled, that has sparkled him or herself, and starts to spread it. And if a leader wants to do it, it's very important that you know why you want to do it. If you want to do it just for the sake of doing self-management because everybody is doing, people will know that you do not have a real why. So that's why I am starting with this journey, because for you to transform an organization, you have to start to transform yourself as a leader and the people. Then you can transform everything, because by the end, organizations are groups of people together. So what is that I want you to get by the end is to understand that when people start to feel, this is not my work, this is my responsibility, you did transform the organization. So how we get from your journey within to this responsibility? Well, one point, if anybody asks me, what is one thing that you can describe yourself? I believe in the infinite potential of human beings. So if you tell what you do not believe, I do not believe that there are good or bad human beings. I believe that absolutely every human being has an infinite potential. If it's not shown, you can categorize as bad, but it's not because it is bad. It's because the person has not flourished. The person is not being themselves. Yeah. I am a senior executive. I am a mother. Now I am an executive coach, but I am a lifelong learner and believer. I keep evolving in my belief and my learning. And I believe that absolutely everything will start within us. So I want a little just to tell my journey of leadership from 1996, when I started in Bayer, in my real first job. Before I had jobs in Pfizer and J&J, it was like assistant management, assistant marketing and trainee. But in 96, I was hired in Bayer to be a business planning developer. It was, I don't remember exactly the position, but I was called there to help them to plan the marketing. And I was in Bayer from 96 until 2013. 2013, I moved from Roche, from Bayer to Roche. But what was my learning when Bayer, when people from Bayer or other people, other coaches, they were preparing myself to be a leader? Because in 2003, I got my first position as general manager for Hungary. It was 2002. I was 31 years old. So I got my first big position of leadership when I was, let's say, not prepared, but people prepared me. So I was listening a lot to coaches. So many people. So the first thing that they told is that for you to be a general manager and you are so young, you have to have control. How you have control? You have to see the numbers. And by seeing the numbers, you can see if the results are coming or not. And parallel to this, you have to motivate the employees. You have to do everything to motivate employees. So you have to find the right rewards. You have to have good relationship with them, but not so close that you cannot fire them. So for these, you have to have smart objectives, because if you have smart objectives, you will motivate them towards these smart objectives. And knowledge is power. If somebody is very good, you promote them, they will get a position, they will be respected because they are an expert in whatever they are. And you have the work to help to avoid failure. So this is how I came to Hungary as a general manager. What happens? I feel like I was in a cocoon. I feel like I cannot control. So I am arriving in Hungary. I don't even speak their language. And I didn't even know where Hungary was in the map when they offered me the position. So how can I arrive to a country and be boss of everybody and tell that knowledge is power? So I felt weakened and not in the right place to be their leader. And when I arrived there, I started to understand that things were very different. And when I started to understand what I had to do to be successful, that it was to make people successful, I understood that this reading should be completely different. From 2011, when I went to my second position as a general manager in Venezuela, and I have gone through Mexico, I learned that you do not have to control things. You have to trust. You have to build trust by arriving in a country and telling, I do not know anything about your country. I am here to help you. But there is one thing that we have in common. We want to treat patients. We want to make this work, and we want to be successful. I understood that I didn't have to focus on numbers. I had to focus on humans, because everybody, I was completely dependent on the people that was working with me for me to be successful. So if I am following numbers, numbers would not tell me anything. But if I would focus on humans and understand that I don't have to motivate them, I have to believe in them. I believe in you. I know that you can do, and I know that you know more than I know, and I know that you can guide me to guide you. So instead of having smart objectives and putting a set of objectives to follow, you put a reason for them to work. You put a purpose together, because then they are not just delivering the result of the objectives. They will have an immense field to play because they have a purpose. And then there is something very important. Knowledge is not the power. The power is how much People will inspire each other and will be able, in a collective way, to build a collective wisdom. And instead of knowledge power, you have to follow people who are inspiring and role modeling each other. Who are the ones, when I arrived in a country, I was looking, who is in the organization that everybody follows? Who is in the organization that wakes up in the morning and knows why he or she is doing it? And another thing, help to avoid failure. No, I start in a place being a failure because I don't know the language. I don't know the market. I don't know the clients. And everybody knows more than I know. So by starting knowing that I am something that is not perfect and telling that I need to learn from you, everybody wants to teach you. So they start to spread knowledge. And if something goes wrong, good, because this will make you learn more. But this was a life journey evolution, because it was not only for work, it was for my personal life also. So if I make a summary of where I was in 2013, when I went to Roche, India, was exactly in this evolution, when I knew that the constant recognition of the value added that a human being has in an organization or in a society, and if you can measure the outcomes and outputs, you will be able to show people that the value that they are adding is giving results. And by the end, my learning was in India, in Hungary, in Mexico, in Portugal, every place that I was, there is one thing in common. Everybody is human being, independent of religion, independent of race, independent of nationality, politics. Absolutely everybody wants to make it right and wants to add value. And by this secret, I understood that then what was the question that you had to put in front of everybody, and how I work it always. What gives you meaning? And then I explain you how this happened to me. In my 27 years of pharmaceutical experience, pharmaceutical industry experience, I had 20 years that I was an expat. I went from Brazil to Portugal to Germany to Mexico to Hungary. And in Venezuela, I changed from Bayer to Roche. And then it was when I was in Venezuela that I decided to go to India. And in this transition, it was exactly when I understood what my mother and my grandfather used to tell me, that I should stop looking for what I loved. I had to love absolutely everything that I was doing. And it is the complication of the youngsters today, and many of us, that we arrive in an age and we ask ourselves, what do I love? How I live my passion? How I work in something that I love? How I change my job to what I love? And my mother always told, normally when you ask these questions, it's because you have difficulties in what you are doing. So you have to look back and tell how I love what I am doing now, how I make what I'm doing now meaningful and adding value to anybody that is around me. And it was my grandfather who told me, the younger you get wise, the longer you will be happier. And for you to be wise is to understand that it's your choice what you love or not, as it's your choice if you will work for yourself or for others. The moment that you start to work for others, your happiness will be infinite, because your happiness will just depend on doing for others. And this, with all this in my head, I asked when I was in Venezuela, because I joined Roche, because Roche was an oncological pharmaceutical industry. And I wanted to see more my work in saving lives. And when I was in Venezuela, we had lots of challenges, and we had just to save the reputation of Roche in Venezuela until we could not import anymore and patients had no medicines anymore. But we kept the company there. So we would be there for any moment that the opening would come. We would be there to serve the patients. But for me, I thought I need to go to a place now that the little that I do can make a big difference. It was when I asked to go to India. And when I asked to go to India, it was in 2017, in August. I asked to join India because I heard that the managing director was leaving. And I went and they accepted, and I went to India with the mandate to do whatever I could just to try to save more patients and get our medicines sold in India, because it was expensive products for a country that it was in a healthcare challenge. So how we do it? And additionally to this, we had a situation in India that the engagement rate of the employees at that moment was less than 45%. The last 4 years were a decreasing of sales. The reputation was starting to come back because previous to this, Roche in India has sold its products rights to another company, and they just came back around 2012, 2013. It was when they hired the whole organization, they put back the organization in place, and they started to regain reputation. But it was people from all different companies. It was a great team, more than 500 people. And then after 3 years, in 2016, they saw that they hired too many people, and they fired 1/3 of the team. And when I arrived, they had decreased the team. And then I arrived with a team wanting to do a lot, but in fear, completely fear. So when I arrived there, the leadership team and everybody, they were looking a kind of, all of these, they were looking as an obstacle. They just saw a stone and the sky beyond. They didn't see anything. They didn't see anything more. They just saw the problems. And what I did arriving there is trying to apply a methodology that I apply a lot. This is this kind of reframing. It's like when you change the way you look at things, things that you look at will change. So, okay, let's look. The situation of the employees is because they do not feel connected to organization. So it's a nice thing, because if we find a disconnection of the employees to the organization and a way that they can feel that they can add value, and we align these, then it will change completely. The other side is, okay, focus on sales. So do not look sales as sales. Look sales as a consequence of our benefit to society. Do not feel bad to sell our drugs in India because they are expensive. Let's find a way to find manners with our headquarters to have different packages, different methodologies, different collaborations that we can offer for much more patients and have a much lower prices so we can impact. And the Roche reputation, everybody was so worried about the Roche reputation that even there was a reporter from Economic Times that was the whole time mentioning Roche as a damage to the patients. And we told, if we want to really make a difference in society in India, and we want to bring our medicines, and we know that our medicine saves life, the reputation of Roche in India is not because we need this for ourselves. It's because we need people to believe in our medicines, and they need to work together with us, believe in us, for us to be able to treat patients. Yeah. So how it was exactly that I did this when I arrived? I divided my approach in threefold. It was these three things I was doing parallel. Yeah. And it was very intentional and very conscious. Yeah. The first thing was to bring purpose and alignment between individual purpose and the purpose of the organization. So I worked in this alignment of the purpose of Roche Global, because all employees of Roche Global are very proud to work in Roche. And then the environment inside Roche in all countries is wonderful, because people know that they are there for something more. This was missing there in India, because people were worried by sales, by failure, being the worst country in sales, worst country in profitability. But then the question I was aligning, okay, let's be Roche. Let's do what Roche does. And parallel to this, okay, what would be the right operating model and strategy that would allow us to deliver this vision that we have for a company that would make us proud of doing the work in Roche, India. Yeah. And then the third part was to work in the individual. I had to work in the leaders first, for them to trust the organization, and the organization to trust the leaders. And we had to understand that everybody there was a leader, because I was kind of, let's say, cheated, because they told me that India was a country. And when I arrived there, I discovered that India is not a country, but it's much more than 30 countries together. And it is impossible to work in India with one central strategy. There is one country in each state, and in each state, it's an own organism by itself. So we needed to trust the people who were working in each state for them to develop what was better for each state. But for this, they needed to have discernment, because we needed to trust that the decisions they would make in their states would be real ones, good ones, compliant ones, and that would benefit patients and the organization also. How you do it? You move the culture. So how I did it? To align the purpose of the individuals and the purpose of the company, we took the purpose of the Roche Global, that is doing now what patients need next, and we developed a vision in India. We asked everybody if we would translate what means doing now what patient needs next in India, what would be? And challenging enough, everybody in Roche India told that if we want to do now what patients need next, we want to work in the healthcare access. We have to improve healthcare in a way that the patients will be having access to our medicines. And we took this challenge. So it was a challenge where the new measurement of success for us was we as Roche, a baby supporting hands of much bigger stakeholders to really take care of citizens and not only patients. And this was our vision, that we would collaborate for building a new healthcare in different places, different ways, and at the same time to bring our medicines. So we had then started to develop a strategy and operating model where we were both at the same time looking at a long term and a short term. We were developing a whole strategy where citizens were in the center. Yeah. And we had all of the strategy following what was best for the citizens, and then taking care of technology, taking care of access, but also working in a way that we were, by doing this, we asked the stakeholders to ask us, what can we do to help you to develop this healthcare, but at the same time for us to bring our products, because if we are able to bring our products and help the patients with the profits that we will do from this, we will be able even to invest more to help more the healthcare system. How we did this, then comes the operating model and the strategy. The operating model and the strategy, if you scan this QR code, it will bring you to my LinkedIn article that at that time I shared with everybody publicly what was the strategy of Roche India. And you read the whole article and you will understand in detail our strategy. Our strategy was to advance citizen well-being. It was not only the patients, because many citizens that were they were healthy, they were deciding the healthcare, they were caregivers. And we had to ensure healthcare access and access to Roche products. So our strategy was divided, a percentage of the investment in healthcare access and the other in healthcare in access to our products. And then we had to leverage what? We had to leverage technology, stakeholder partnerships, and state diversity. Yeah, and we enable what? Organization agility and execution excellence. So this was our kind of framework. Everything that we were doing, we had to ask, does it help citizen well-being? Okay, but does this fit to healthcare access or access to Roche products? And then, does it involve technology partnership or state diversity? So going through this was our guidance as a strategy. And then we built some assumptions that we were reviewing each year, and then we had projects that would deliver to it. Yeah. And then this was the strategy. We became from a commercial affiliate to a value affiliate. I explained this in this article. We were not measuring anymore sales incentive. We were measuring number of patients that we were saving lives. We didn't have business plans anymore. We had life-saving plans. Just changing the language, it was changing everything. And this was unfolding as we, as a leadership team, we sat down and we told, if we want to delegate our leadership, which would be the framework that we have to give to the team, so they are just following and answering questions into this direction. And then after this, they will be discussing and they will evolve the strategy themselves. So we build the framework, we gave to them. We build the operating model that it was self-organized. We divided all the states in 12 clusters, and each cluster had their own coordinator that could be anyone that they thought that would guide them. And these clusters were sales reps that were called value specialists. It was market access, it was medical, it was everybody together. And everybody together had each 6 months to select one person to be the coordinator of the state. And then they have champions of communication, champions of compliance, that they would self-organize themselves to see who would be, for example, the champion of communication, would be the person who would communicate with the others and understand what were the things that we were doing in the state that should be communicated to the others. At the same time, once a month, we had meetings in the headquarters that these communication champions would come and then interact and exchange ideas. So we had a whole operating model where we had the clusters that were working in the states directly to the patients, and we had a part that it was the platforms that we call the communities. And the communities, they were either with people that it was the back office, but always in these communities, we had somebody also from the field. And then we had some lean areas that were taking care of processes like finances, HR, and we changed all the names. We changed all the names. And some of them, they are told there. Which principles I followed when I started doing this work? I was for 2 years, I was following, I was already for 7 years following Dana Zohart's quantum management work, yeah? And in 2017, I participated in Train the Trainers workshop training of Dana Zohar, where she taught everybody what is the quantum management way of thinking, when everything is connected and there are some principles of an organization that you have to follow, and there are some principles of the individuals, and she was teaching how to follow some steps. In a way, I implemented step by step many things that she brought. So the operating model was following the quantum principles. And these are the 8 principles of the quantum leadership and the quantum organization. Is a lot a mix of the teal and many others, but it's, for example, it's a bottom-up, self-organized, emergent. So the organization is emerging, is bottom-up, but you have a top-down decision sometimes with the leadership that you have. It thrives on diversity. You never use either or. You never have to choose both things. You have always to choose both and. Everything that should we do this or this? No, how we do both? How can we work together? Let's do a dialogue. It is like deeply green, meaning deeply green is ecosystem, is a systemic way of thinking. Absolutely. Everything that you do will impact in everything. So be mindful of whatever you are doing and how this will impact. Playful is try, play, make mistakes. It's not a mistake. So people even was telling, we don't make mistakes, we learn. And then you have to be flexible, responsive, and at the edge. Like a jazz jam session, one is doing fitting into the other. Vision centered and value driven and holistic. Holistic is really that absolutely everybody is a leader, and is the same in we are part of a bigger system. We are part of the whole system that we are living in. So we have to understand the stakeholders, the government, and also the other countries. So this is when everybody started to realize and tell, if I work like this, I have a responsibility with India and with the world. And I have to impact not only India, also the world. We can be an example in India as a healthcare that will disrupt technology, and we will show to everybody how we will help healthcare and technology in India develop so much that we will be an example to the others. And we were inspiring other healthcare providers to think the same. Then let's go to the culture. Parallel to this, I was working a lot. I started with the leaders. Yeah, I myself trained the leaders in the quantum leadership principles. Yeah, that are divided basically in 3 principles. But how did I do this? The culture, if you ask and you think, if you are going to change culture, what you have to change? You have to change mindsets. Is the way that you see things. And if you ask what is the culture of your company and you answer it, we go to the coffee machine and listen to the people talking. And then I can tell if your definition of the culture of your company is right or wrong. Because the coffee machine talk, the chai talk is what really is the culture of your company. How people treat the chai person that serves the people, it will tell a lot about your culture. So you have to first understand individuals. And that's why in the beginning I told that always I was arriving in a different country each 4 years. For me to understand the culture of the company, I was going to the coffee, I was talking to the people, I was talking to the lady who was cleaning the bathrooms. And if she was afraid, I knew that there was something that I had to worry. If the lady from the bathroom was friendly and talking to me, it showed how people respected her and her work, and she was not afraid to talk. The same from the person who was opening the door. So this was what I was seeing, and then looking among the people, who are the people who were like the natural leaders? And then I used to take the natural leader. And here in India, I did the same. I looked the people who were like driven by making a change. And I took them together with the leadership team, and we built groups that were the culture changers. And in this, it was what I really believe. Because mindset is it's very easily spreading. If you have somebody complaining, everybody will complain. So who talks, who communicates, will contaminate others. But normally, people are afraid to tell good things if others are complaining. And if you have an engagement rate of less than 46%, that means that everybody's complaining. And the ones who are happy, they do not talk because they do not want to feel that, oh, I don't want people to think that I am trying to please my boss, but I am really happy working here. If you have this kind of organization, it's very complicated. So you have to give space for these people to sparkle and to talk why they like their jobs. So normally it's because they have a purpose. So help them to spread their purpose. So here it was exactly what we came back to, the same thing again. So what exactly is the vision and purpose of the company? And parallel that we were doing this work of individuals, we were working asking, what is the vision of the company locally? And then when they were talking about it, because of the question that you had, yeah, and I was talking to HR because HR was always sending questionnaires asking what the company can do for you to feel more accepted. What the organization can do for you to feel more happier. What is that HR can do? Which benefits do you think that would make you more comfortable with your work? What do you mean by this? You are telling that they are not comfortable, and you are telling that the company, their happiness depends on the company. So I changed the question always. So what you can do to make your life better in this company, what you can do with your team to make things better. And I created groups that was called Roche Kritagyata. Do you guys know Kritagyata, the Sanskrit? Do you know what means Kritagyata? Aha, I know more than you guys. Kritagyata is gratitude, but it's the gratitude in the essence of being grateful to life, to be grateful for existing. So we created this group after 3 months in the company that were volunteers, they were working on finding Kritagyata, and they had five pillars. One pillar was well-being, another one was gratitude, another one was positive attitude, another one was celebrating, and another one was volunteering. So when we asked for volunteers, 3 months after I started, the HR guys was telling, nobody will volunteer, Lara. We have 42% engagement rate, and nobody will volunteer because they are tired, they have lots of work. So what happened? I thought, let's just ask. I had lots of talks to many people, and I see that the 46% engagement rate is because people are shouting that they want to do something. They want to do, and I know Indians, they need to give back to community. They need to feel valued more than any other nation. And if you let them work and be themselves, they will flourish. And funny enough, we sent then the leadership team, they agreed, and they told Lara, we really hope that you are not disappointed with our team. And we sent the questionnaire on a Wednesday, and Friday would be the last day for the people to be volunteers. And I had just arrived 2 months and a half. I arrived in October and it was December. And this group of volunteers, they had to sit down and prepare all of the schedule and planning for the next year, the whole year, in 15 days. So they knew what they had to do. And then they told us, if 20 people will be volunteering, you have to be happy. And I told, okay, no problem. Do you know, guys, how many people volunteered? More than 160 people. More than half of the organization volunteered. So the problem that we had is how to organize everybody. And this was the first experiment of self-organization. They found one leader, they divided themselves in the 5 pillars, and they started to work, and we didn't do anything. So the culture was being built, and the test to see if they can self-organize happened in this beginning. But coming back here, we were talking about their lives, their work, yeah? And here we were working in this part, and vision and purpose was aligning here. Then we started to bring back, step back and tell in the world what is happening, what is success, what is that word and companies are measuring like right now as success. And I started to bring to them all of the concepts of the SDGs, the ESGs, how the Davos were signing things in the direction of purpose of the companies. And what I made, I started to make a connection for them outside India, like seeing a connection in all parts. So then I was making this connection from their individual purpose to the world purpose. So what they were doing in Roche, India, in their daily life was not only on the purpose of India, our company, but had a repercussion in the SDGs. And if the healthcare target of SDGs, that is the third, if we would move 0.1% of the population of India, would move hugely the whole world. And by showing them that their work would mean a lot in the world, they put in perspective and they told, the little that I do here in India, I am impacting much more than 10 people in Switzerland, 100 people in Switzerland. So let's do it. Do you understand? We changed the measurement of success because people was telling, whatever I do here in India, I am fortunate to be here in India because my impact is much bigger. And then with this, I was working with them in purpose. I asked them, what is your purpose? We made purpose exercise. Each new person that was entering Roche India had to fill up a purpose letter. They had to answer, what is your purpose? They had to do it. And then we worked in the SQ principles. The SQ principles, if you make the scan also here, you will see the principles that I brought. And then a scale of motivation is another principle that is just telling, that is the reframing exercise, that you, by self-awareness, you identify what is motivating you, fear, anger, or it is higher purpose, helping others, collaboration. And teaching them this psychological exercise, they were understanding themselves much better. So now is already the end, almost the end of my presentation. So what was the new leadership paradigm that we created? Yeah, we wanted to create a new leadership thought. Leadership is not that when somebody is not working well, you fire them and you change. No, because when a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. So if your team, if somebody in your team is not well, work in doing the best. And then if the conclusion is that this is not the right environment and what we are doing is not the best, let's find a job for the person first, help them so they will leave because they found something that is meaningful for their lives, and let's help them. So it was the way that we were working. And then the job of the leaders were to create other leaders, meaning with my purpose and my learnings, I share and inspire others to be leaders also, and foster the right environment. You have to create a safe space for the people to be whole, to experiment, and to become a leader. With this, I will just close this part with my learnings and this, that there are some things here that I show as examples of the new world. So it was like they started to have family, more connection. They had meetings outside the job with the families. So there was even, for example, in the WhatsApp groups that they were sharing, somebody was talking about, oh, if we fail, what is the plan B? And a person was asking in very big question marks, negative results, couldn't understand. We always win or learn. There is nothing called negative results. As a team, we will win. So this was the spirit that they had, no? And the leaders were chosen by capability and not designation. We had lots of dialogues. My title changed because everybody's title changed. And at a certain moment they told Lara, you are not a manager. You are not a general manager. You're not a managing director. You do not direct whatever is to be managed because you don't manage anything. So I thought, okay, what is my title? So I put to them, and 3 titles came back, like Chief Transformation Officer, Chief Purpose Officer, and Chief whatever officer, I don't remember. And 70% of the organization voted in Chief Purpose Officer because they told, transformation, we will always transform. But what you can never, never let us forget is why we are here, because of the patients. And your job is to keep asking us the right questions for us to have the right decisions. So then I transformed myself in Chief Purpose Officer. That even there was an article in Forbes that there was a person that is the CEO of the corporate education of Duke University, that he writes about purpose, and he made an interview with me that I was the first Chief Purpose Officer that he knew having an executive job, not a HR, and it was very nice. And the rewards was the team who did, and where to start the learnings. So we have to start with the leadership and role modeling, yourself and the leadership. You have to have the right purpose and the vision for the company. What are the crucial elements? And this is something that we delayed to do. And that's why we had a problem in certain moment that people didn't know where they were because we stopped measuring. And when we were developing new measurement tools, they were having other priorities of communication, and we delayed to have the right measurement tools and the governance framework. So when we were developing these, the things were coming back on track. But it's very important that the first step, even if it's just a draft, when you start to do something that is self-organized, what are you measuring? What is the outcome and outputs? And what is the governance for it? It is important to have. And it's not self-organized to have it. And you have to constantly reinforce culture. And you have never to lose the belief in each individual. You have to work on selves. You cannot lose sight of the purpose. Yeah. So I stop here because I took much more time than I would. I had some other additional slides to talk about some conclusions that I had and the work that I'm doing now with leaders and human transformation, but I will let it for the next time. I will just come back to two phrases that I think that is very important for you to start your journey as a leader. Yeah. For me, it was very important, this phrase, that the most important decision we make in our lives is whether we believe we live in a friendly or hostile universe. What does this mean? When you see somebody, you see this person as being hostile to what you want or friendly. Everything that happens in your organization, is it a problem or an opportunity? The things that happen, they are against what you want to achieve, or they are just a sign to tell that you are not in the right path and you have to find the right path. The way that you think like this, you will act with your team, and your team will also either look just for problems and solving problems or finding something greater to achieve your common vision. And another phrase that I love is that heroes and cowards, everybody has fear. All transformation, you will have fear. There are differences that the heroes make their decisions based on their dreams. Yeah? And the question is, you make your decision based on your dreams or your fears? You see the universe as hostile or friendly? And I really appreciate you guys listening so much time to me. I get very excited when I'm talking about it. But there is a compliment that I had before. I study yoga for more than 20 years. And I have Bhagavad Gita in so many. I read Bhagavad Gita by Gandhi, by Yogananda. So I love the philosophy of yoga. And the Namaste is the most beautiful compliment for me, because it's what I believing in other human beings, is that the divine in me salutes the divine in you all. So I really appreciate you guys, and I hope that you believe in the divine that exists in absolutely everybody, and then everything will unfold.
Beautiful, Lara.
Thank you.
You leave us with such inspiring thoughts.